This video will talk about adding and subtracting fractions. When we add or subtract fractions, our fractions have to have a common denominator, okay, which means their denominator has to be the same number. So in this example of 2/5 plus 1/4, we do not have the same denominator, and so we're going to have to create equivalent fractions to 2/5 and 1/4 that have a common denominator. Okay, so to find a common denominator, we just think of the least common multiple of the two numbers. So for 5 and 4, the least common multiple is 20. So we're going to create equivalent fractions that have 20 as their denominator. Okay. Now we can't just make it 2/20 and 1/20 because those are not equivalent to 2/5 and 1/4. So what I have to do is I have to figure out what do I have to multiply 5 times to get to that 20. So 5 times 4 gets me to 20, and so I need to multiply this 2 times that same number. The reason that we can do this is because if I multiply 2/5 times 4/4, that's the same as multiplying 2/5 by 1. Okay, and so I might be changing the numbers in the fraction, but I'm not changing the value of the fraction. So 2 times 4 is 8. So I have 8/20, which is equivalent to 2/5. And then for this 1/4, I multiply the 4 times 5 to get 20. So I have to multiply 1 times 5, because 5/5 is a form of 1 as well. Whereas some of my professors called it a form of 1. So 1 times 5 is 5. So now I'm just adding 8/20 plus 5/20. And that is going to be equal to 8 plus 5, which is 13. And then the 20, since that's our common denominator, when we're adding or subtracting, the denominator stays that number. Okay? So our answer is 13/20. Okay? I would be doing the same thing if this were a subtraction problem. So if instead, let's erase some of these things here. Okay. Now, we're still going to have to change these to have the same denominator, but if I'm subtracting instead of adding, all that I do is 8 minus 5, which is 3, and I keep the 20. So it would be 3/20 if I were subtracting.